Welcome back to our podcast with Meredith and Wendelin. Today, we are here to talk about one of our favorite topics, being perfect. So, have you ever aspired to be perfect at something, even though we know that that's not really attainable, but somehow we really just want to reach it? There is this wonderful quote from a psychologist in Seattle, Dr. Sun, says, perfectionism isn't about being the best at any given pursuit. It's the feeling of never arriving to that place, never feeling good enough, never feeling adequate. And that can be a harsh situation to put our minds and our bodies in, where the lies that we're telling ourselves are what we should be able to do. I always love that expression, don't should all over yourself, you know?
I like that.
Don't should all over yourself. So, this topic is something I believe we all can relate to. I know that some people may believe that they're not perfectionistic or that they aspire to be perfect because we're realistic. However, I do believe that we've all been there at one time or another, especially based on what Dr. Sun has said. I know that every client who has walked through my door, sat on the couch, has had a moment of, I don't feel good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm never going to get there. So the idea of I'm not good enough, to me, I think aligns with perfectionism. And that is why we started this podcast, because we know what human nature is and what we need to do and how we need to see ourselves as works in progress. I had a wonderful professor in college, and he would say, it's all about the process. He would continue to remind us it's all about the process. So it's really important to remember we are all works in progress. That is why we do this podcast of Simply 1%. Please don't try to change it in one day. Don't try to change it in 1 month. You're not going to get there. And please know that we are all in this together, where we've had moments of perfectionism or wanting to be perfect.
Yeah. Seriously, I struggle with perfectionism. I'm not a perfectionist. It's not a part of my identity where I want everything to be perfect. But there are areas in my life where perfectionism rears its ugly head. It can come, like, for instance, with social situations. I have this, okay, it's just going to go really well. I'm going to say something. It's going to be really delightful. And everybody's going to leave the conversation feeling great. And then I marry someone who also is socially, like, he has social anxiety as well. Because I remember one time leaving church and I was like, hello, you could have said something. He was like, I have social anxiety as well, Wendelin. It was like, and I remember I was like, but you could have smiled. He goes, I was smiling. I was like, oh my gosh, did you think you were smiling? Like, we're worse off than we thought. If you thought you were smiling in that conversation, you look so angry.
He was smiling on the inside.
No, he wasn't. On the inside, he was like, get me out of this. Let's, like, please let us be raptured. Let something happen where I don't have to talk to people. I'm serious. The other day I was surprising him with something and I was like, I have a surprise. He goes, do I have to be social? He's terrified. So
Do I have to be social? Do I have to leave the house?
yeah. And I wasn't gracious at all. I said, actually, you have to be ready in an hour. People are picking you up. The blood drained from his face. He looked at me with such horror. He goes, I'm not going anywhere. It's like immediately he was going into battle. I was like, calm down. I'm just joking. I couldn't even get through it because I felt his anxiety.
That was a joke?
It was a joke. I was joking. And he thought I was
Oh.
serious. And he was like, seriously, I could have stabbed him and he'd look the same. I could have literally, he would have looked the same. And so anyway, we both have this social anxiety, but I have this perfectionism attached to it. The interaction has to go perfect. Again, because we've talked about movie moments where I'm like, oh, everybody has great conversations and they go really well and someone's witty. And let's be honest, Gilmore Girls sure didn't help with that situation because I watched that one and I was like, oh, I can be witty like Lorelai Gilmore. I've like actually thought, okay, what are some really cool lines that I could use after watching that show? Because I'm like, conversations have to go perfect. So I work myself up. So I either don't want to be social at all, or I
Mhm.
go into it guns a-blazing and I say things that are really off and
Mm.
really horrible. And I leave just crawling on the ground. And, my husband over here is barely speaking. He's grunting through the whole conversation, thinking he's contributing. So that doesn't help. So perfectionism,
We're all in this together, but we're really not.
we're not.
No, we're not.
And so perfectionism to me, I either abandon the whole thing, even with hobbies. You know this. I wanted to start
Mhm.
whittling things, people. What am I, a hobbit? Yes, I basically am.
Well, yeah,
Like
you would love to
I
be. You
I
would love
would.
to be.
I would live in a
Yeah.
tree with cheese and bread all day long. And
Mhm.
I would
Mhm.
sit on the front porch smoking a
Mhm.
pipe. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But I wanted to start whittling. And then what did I do, Meredith? You were here for this. I started looking at videos on how to whittle. And there were
Yeah,
all of
with a
these.
spoon, right?
Yeah, it was a
Or
spoon. I
what
just wanted to do a spoon, people. And I YouTubed it, and this guy had so many knives that did different things for carving and to make different shapes. And immediately what I did was, oh my goodness, my spoon is going to look so horrible. This is too much work. I'm not going to know what knife to use. And because I couldn't be perfect in it, I abandoned the whole
Mm.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you even bought me a wooden whittled spoon to encourage me. And I was like, nope, nope, I'll just buy them.
Well,
Like, yeah, but that's an example of me abandoning something because I wasn't going to be perfect in it. And I have that tendency to say, I'm not going to reach this level of perfection. I've been intimidated by something, so I'll abandon it.
mhm.
I'm really bad about that. My husband wants to do,
Mhm.
he's better at it. He wants to do ice skating lessons. I'm thinking to myself, if I don't get on that ice and look like a freaking like ice skating queen out there, I'm not doing it.
If we're not in the Olympics in 2 years, no, we're not doing it.
But my husband, he's like, yeah, I'm going to go out. I'll probably fall. He has a different relationship with perfectionism. He's like, oh, and let's be honest, my husband's going to be great at it. He's going to do it a couple times and be like, I'm a natural. I mean, come on. I mean, even if
You
he
know
wasn't a
what?
natural, he looks the way he looks. So people are like, oh, look, Jason Momoa's on the ice. No one cares about how
Yes.
good you are. You
No.
can get away with
Mm-mm.
so much more looking like him. And I'm like, you know
Oh,
what, though?
it's
I
true.
don't have that. So I'm going to be whittling something that looks like
On the
garbage
sideline.
with a sweat stash and frizzy hair. So no, I don't have that. So my relationship with perfectionism is a little bit different. And so I
Mhm.
do. I tend to abandon situations, or I get really frustrated. Like this morning with my poor
Mm.
children, we're like,
Yeah.
okay, we got to do homeschool this morning. And I went into it thinking this is going to be like The Sound of Music, right? I mean, I'm like, what was her name? Maria.
Oh, yeah, I want it to be
Oh yeah,
Maria. Like, yeah,
I
yeah,
was going to go
yeah, oh,
into it
yeah.
like I was freaking Maria making clothes out of
Mhm.
curtains and
Yes.
talking about these are a few of my favorite things.
Mhm.
By the end of homeschool, my son was mad, my daughter was crying, and I was bitter.
You had
Like,
it.
we all had to say I'm sorry. At one point, I just grabbed my daughter's hand. I was like, "Can we just pray?" And she was like, "Mm-hmm." And she's crying. So I went into it thinking I was going to be Fräulein Maria. And, how do you solve a problem like Gwendolyn? How do you solve a problem like my mother? Is what my children were singing. I traumatized them by the end of homeschool. I mean, let's be honest, by the end of homeschool, I was more like Mrs. Hannigan. I'm not joking. It was awful. Fräulein Maria, who? Who is she? Nope, Mrs. Hannigan. I'm like, little girls, little girls. Like, I'm not, it was awful. My poor children and poor me. Poor Mrs. Hannigan. No one ever looks at her and says, "Oh, look what she had to do." That's all right. Now I'm playing the victim, but I'm serious. By the end, Fräulein was gone. Mrs. Hannigan had stepped in, and that is just how it was. I mean, but that's it. When I cannot reach that unreasonable expectation of perfection, I get so frustrated. And unfortunately, others pay for it because we get so frustrated. We take it out because we're frustrated with ourselves, but we just take it out on those people who are around us My children were frustrated. I was frustrated. We just kept feeding each other frustration. At the end, it was really great. But that is my relationship with perfectionism. I either abandon the task or what I'm supposed to, or what I believe I'm supposed to be perfect at, or I just get really frustrated.
Well, I was thinking about that as you were talking, though. I think what I've seen in Joe is it seems like when he gets perfectionistic, it's on himself. If he has done something wrong and he's like, oh my gosh, this affects Gwendolyn, this affects my family, this affects,
Oh,
and it's not something that he, right? That's his perfectionism. He's so hard on himself in that way.
oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
selfless in it. He's like, I don't want to disappoint others. I'm like, I don't want to disappoint myself.
If it impacts others,
Yeah.
that's when he's hard on himself. But
Yes,
like he's,
because he takes
yeah.
that very seriously. Like it's okay if
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work out for me,
Mm-hmm.
but if it doesn't work out for my family and I hurt other people in the process or it doesn't turn out perfect for them, then he's hard on himself. For me,
Yeah.
I'm just like, look, if I hurt myself, I'm gonna be really pissed off about this. He's one of the most selfless people.
He is. I You are too, by the way. You guys
Well,
both are. Yeah,
well,
you
you
are.
wouldn't have said that if you saw Fräulein Maria today homeschooling her children. You wouldn't have said that. You'd have been like, yeah, we need to work on this.
No, you know what I would have said? We're all in work in progress. We are
Yeah.
all works in progress. Yes. And I would also say I've been there. Remember, I was a teacher for 20 years.
Who hasn't been there? You know what I get the most frustrated with is math because I know that I can't do it. So what did I do? Abandon it. I'm like, oh, I'm out. But that was the most important today when I, Fräulein Maria, was teaching my children. And then it didn't turn out the way that we thought. Um,
Mhm.
the most important thing for me when I actually get perspective and I sit back, I go, okay, Gwendolyn, this was unrealistic. You had unrealistic expectations coming into this. It is realistically, Meredith, it is more important for me to teach my children how to screw up and then ask for
Mm.
forgiveness and to
Mhm.
give grace than it is for them to know how to be perfect. I don't want them to try to be perfect. It's unattainable. And with that's going to come frustration, low self esteem, all of those things. But if I can teach you how to royally screw up and then
Mhm.
ask for forgiveness and seek that and be and humble yourself, right? My daughter
Mhm.
said something really beautiful to me the other day. We were driving, and I think I shared this with you. She said, you know, Mom, do you know why I hide sometimes when I know I have to say sorry to you? And I said,
Mhm.
why? She goes, because I'm really embarrassed. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, it is embarrassing because you have to humble yourself. And it is hard.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be hard when you say that you're
Mhm.
wrong. So it's more important for me that my children not pursue perfection, but they pursue what it is to be gracious and forgiving and to seek those things and to ask for those things.
Mhm.
So I want to teach them how to screw up. You
Right.
know, I want to that's so important to me.
Yeah. We are going to all struggle with it to some degree. I've seen it in everybody at some point, right? I mean, that was one of my greatest hurdles in life, and it still is. I notice in my times of when I'm experiencing insecurities, typically it has to do with that, where I'm disappointing people, and then I disappoint myself that I didn't know the thing or that I messed up. Like when I take people on trips, or people come to visit, or people definitely rely on me to find the best coffee shop, and I don't mind it. It's actually, I like that, right? Bringing them around, being Magellan, just taking them all over the place and navigating it. And I love that. I love the challenge of it. It's, me, I celebrate, I like to host, all of that. And if I make a mistake in the way that we're going and I take them 15 minutes out of the way and I know they're already struggling walking somewhere, or I bring them to this place I kept talking about and it's closed, I get so mad at myself and I feel so bad. Like I'm letting everybody down. And then in turn, I'm like, letting myself down. Meredith, you should have known that. So to still have those moments where I'm experiencing this, just in the insecurity, it's like, well, what is that? It's just how do I want someone to see me? I want someone to see me that I'm capable, right? And so if I'm perfect, or if I'm striving for that, if I get 70% of it right, I have to just sometimes say, Meredith, you still took them on this wonderful tour of the city. We got to go to this other gelato shop that actually might have been better than the one that was closed. And yet I can still be so hard on myself. And with ADHD, it is so typical of us to experience that. It's a hyperfixation of, now where do I begin? That is what Fräulein Maria sang about, right? Let's start at the very beginning.
Beginning.
It's a very
Very
good
good
place to
place to
start.
start.
Well, I wish that she were around much more in my
Mm.
life, because
Mm.
starting something, especially as a person with ADHD, that is one of the hardest things. And it is how you described it, the perfectionist. I
Yeah.
don't know where to begin. I don't know where to
Mm.
begin, because maybe I haven't done this thing before, or I have done it before and it's not going to come out the way that whatever the thought is. So the idea of experiencing perfectionism or being perfectionistic, we've all been there. I really loved what I heard one time. If you do struggle with perfectionism, you have got to change the mindset
Mm.
that you're probably only going to get 70% there. There's at least 30% of the time that you're going to be wrong. I loved the idea of the perspective. You're going to get something wrong at least 3 out of 10 times. You said, we are going to mess it up. We are going to fail. Many people who I've listened to lately who are millionaires, billionaires, people in business, they talk about having to fail sometimes more than you would like in order to feel successful. All
Mm.
of them have had a story of at least, I mean, major failures, but they've come back from it because they learned from it, and it actually just has made them more money in the end and more successful. I've really appreciated those stories lately, because even with you and I starting this podcast, how long have we waited to do this?
Yeah.
Because we wanted to get it right.
We wanted to be
I
perfect.
think we're getting it right. I mean, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
listen, you're going to hear some things that are not perfect. It could be my
Like,
cackle. It could be whatever. It could be staticky sometimes. But yeah. And you and I have waited to do this because we've wanted to have everything perfect.
yeah.
And then we decided, well, that's hogwash, right?
Yeah. We got to follow our own advice. Hmm?
Yeah,
How about that?
exactly. That's exactly what it is. I think with perfection, and I still, because we have to listen to these podcasts afterwards, we post them, we have to listen to them. And there are times that I just cringe when something isn't perfect. And I'm just like, okay, Gwendolyn, no. No one is expecting perfection, because one of the most unique things about people is their flaws that we consider flaws, right? And to see them come out of it. I just think that's a really great thing, to see someone mess up and then
Mhm.
nobody's going to watch a movie with somebody who's perfect the whole time. No. People screw up and then they come out of it and rise up from the ashes and you're like, "Woohoo! That's the guy you're rooting for. That's the
Mhm.
one." You're like, "Yeah, he screwed up and now look at him." And people in our lives who expect perfection. And you've got to be careful, because if you've heard it your whole life, it can become your narrative. And so whatever
Mhm.
you grew up in, it could be, well, I felt loved when I was perfect, when I got the good grades,
Yeah.
when I said the right thing, when I was beautiful, or when I won at this, or I was best in sport, or whatever.
Yes.
And that's when they felt loved. And so, was that nurtured into me, or am I naturally like this? And so I need to pivot. I've always had like a really bad relationship with money, and
Mm.
where I was single, because I'm really bad at math, I'd be like, "Yeah, I've got money for this." "Oh, no, I didn't." "And guess what? You were charged 20 times a overdraft fee." And so, so
Mm.
now when my husband and I sit down and we have our meetings, him and I, our financial meetings, and he's like, "Okay, this is where we are. This is what we have in investments, blah, blah, blah." And he's telling me all these goals as a he's such a wonderful leader in this. Oh, thank God. Like
An
it
amazing
retire
researcher too.
listen, when it comes to money, if I were not married to this man in retirement, I'd be sleeping in a ditch. Actually, Meredith, I'd be calling you. I'd be like, I'm gonna crash on your couch for the rest of my life because I have nothing. Like, so my husband, thank God he's taking control of this. But when he's talking to me about money, he's so matter of fact. He is not pointing his finger at me. He is not accusing me of anything. If anything, he's telling me I'm doing a great job. Keep at it. We just have to maybe tighten over here to reach these goals. And it's about discipline. And but I feel this shame because I'm not perfect at it. And I'm just like, ugh. Like, and he's always like, Gwendolyn, you're not in trouble. What? I'm like, I always, if money is even mentioned, I
Mhm.
feel like I'm in trouble because I wasn't perfect at it in the past. And I've really gotten myself into trouble with that. And he's like, but none of this just has to do with our goals as a family and what I want to see us accomplish because, we do believe in leaving our children a legacy and all these things. Like he has great intentions. And he's always like, you're the reason, Gwendolyn. I don't know why he does this, but he does. He's like, you're the reason I can do this is because you practice discipline with me as my wife and he's always like complimenting me in the process. And I still feel shame because of my
Mhm.
relationship with perfection when it comes to money. It's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It is.
Mhm.
I mean, I've seen you guys have those conversations and seen you come out of it and you're like, "Oh, man, every time I hate it," you know? And he's just like,
Mhm.
"We're just talking about it, right?" It's the thing. It's like, and that is also the part with the two of you is you really do have a dialogue about it. He's not
Mhm.
lecturing you. You are really having a back and forth.
Yeah. If at any
So,
point I said, "Oh, I really wanna get this. This is really important to me," he'd be like, "I'll make it happen. Like, I'll
mhm,
do it." Like, he's
mhm,
not telling me, "Oh, it's you're at fault for anything." It's just
mm-mm.
that I don't have a good
Yeah.
relationship with money, and I feel like I have to be perfect in it. So I would
Mhm,
rather just not even talk about it. Just, "Joe, do what you do, and I just leave me in the dark." And he's like, "No, you're my wife, you're my partner. This is what we do." That's his mentality on it. This is
mhm.
you and I in this. And so he forces me into it, and it's a good thing. It's a really good
Yes.
thing. But I struggle with the perfection side of it. I just want to be
Yeah.
perfect in my past about it. I want to erase it so I don't feel this anxiety, but and shame, but I just have to have a new relationship with money to where I don't feel like I need to be perfect in it.
Mhm. I know someone who can help you with that.
I wonder who that is, Meredith.
I've heard that she can,
She's
help you
really
with those
good.
things.
She's
Yeah.
really good. Mhm.
Yeah. She has helped other people with that before. I'm just saying. Just saying. So, when you're talking about the relationship, I keep on thinking about my favorite reality TV shows. I love Love is Blind so much. I watch them all. I will talk about that with anybody at any time, by the way. Let's go. But I have to say, every time somebody says, "Oh, they're so perfect for me. They're perfect." You've known each other like for 2 hours. It happens all the time. And how many times have we heard of the couples that we work with still go into marriage with that idea in mind is that this person is perfect for me? Really? And all you need is love. It's not common sense. We see this all the time, but yet it's still something that we feel. And they say, "Oh, we're perfect for each other." There is some truth in that. I can get behind that. Like we're perfect for each other, but we're two imperfect people for each other. And I'm saying this because what brings people into the office when it comes to couples therapy is that it has changed at some point from being perfect. All these things that were so great and we were happy and we were doing this and we were the best of friends. We were great with money. We had it was perfect. Everything was going perfect. That's just unrealistic. So why do I see them a lot of times is because, right, it unravels. Well, where's that perfection? They didn't really think about, they're thinking about keeping it at the perfect, right? Rather than recognizing that those are moments that you've had perfect moments. But to keep it at the level of 100% or perfection all the time, you will be disappointed. You'll be sad. You'll feel lonely. You'll be fearful. You get into a place where you retreat We see it all the time. So I guess that's just like one thing I wanted to talk about because I definitely know that the couples come through the door with that in mind, that they've lost so much because it was so perfect in the beginning. It's just not realistic.
It's not. The only realistic thing about perfection is you can be perfect at being imperfect, right? So, like, it's going to happen. I'm going to be perfect at being imperfect.
Question. So, how do we work through this? How do we help our clients? How do we help ourselves work through this? Where's the mindset? Where's the 1%? How do we encourage that cannot be perfect? We know that, right? So,
Hmm.
perfectly imperfect in every way. Also think of Mary Poppins when we're talking
Yes.
about this, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think you need a good relationship with the truth. Perfectionism is unattainable, and that
Hmm.
perfectionism doesn't equal love. The standard is not perfection, the standard is grace. Having grace on others and having people in your life who offer it.
You know, one of the thoughts I have about this, we lose the opportunity for experiencing joy and celebration in our lives about what we can accomplish to appreciate life and ourselves in a new way by living in this fear of failure, by living in this idea of a perfect world, or if I don't do this perfectly, then I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
If we want to experience joy, then we have got to find a different goal than being perfect at something. I'm also thinking about what we were talking about before of where does perfectionism really come from? And there are a lot of studies out there, but most just point to the fact that it is behavioral. It's a learned behavior
Mm,
based on early experiences, based on one experience that might be traumatic to somebody, based on an environment at any point in your life where you had to be perfect in order to not stir the pot. You had to be perfect to tiptoe around those eggshells, right? Or those red buttons somewhere. So if I can be perfect, that
mm.
means that this environment will be perfect. That is a lot of pressure. This is a lot of pressure to put on yourself, guys. You may not be all around perfectionistic, but what is it that you do feel that you have to be perfect with? I think that's a really important thing to ask yourselves. Where is my area of perfection? Where does that come from? How
Mhm.
does that show up for me?
Meredith, how do you feel, especially with your clients and just how you really step back and observe the world? Because you're really good at this, is just stepping back and taking a moment and observing. How do you feel like social media
Mm,
has
such
affected
a good
people when it comes to
question.
perfection,
Mhm.
perfectionism?
I that yeah, that's such a good question, Wendelin, because how we compare ourselves to the image of what others create on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you see this is unbelievable, the impact that it has on our psyche, on our mood. Just the statistics of depression and anxiety that has gone up in the years that we've had Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, especially in our youth. When you are in those formation years of identity, just figuring out who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what I like, what I don't like, how you feel about your body, how you feel about yourself. It has been really difficult for youth to see how other people look and live and what they present. So we already compare ourselves, but now we have a bigger, greater world, millions to compare ourselves to. And people can hide behind that screen and it may not even be the life that they live. Can you grab parts of other people that you really admire and appreciate and want to hold on to those characteristics, morals, values? Absolutely. And can we just sometimes sit back and just appreciate what we see in others and not have to want that for ourselves? There's such a beauty in observing others and just appreciating them for who they are, warts and all. I was never really a social media person, but over COVID, I got into it because I think a lot of us did, right? What I appreciated about that is the families that would get together and dance together, the games that people created, just how brilliant and how clever people are. So instead of saying, "Oh man, why didn't I come up with that idea? Oh, I could have done that. Why am I not investing in this, in money like this? Why am I not exercising in the way that I could have had those thoughts, and maybe I have at times, but I
Mm.
get to turn it around and say, "That is really awesome that person came up with that. Maybe I'll try
Mhm.
that sometime. Maybe that will be my
Yeah.
1%." But I joined with them, and I
Mhm.
appreciated what they were sharing. The vulnerability of these posts that we see all the time, that is what I love. That's what
Yeah.
brings me a lot of joy and excitement. I mean, look, how many we laugh so much, right? This is an obvious thing, but people are individuals. We
Mhm.
cannot be like anybody else. And there is a joy in that. And there's a wonder in that.
Mhm.
There's a, a beauty in that you are the only one.
Yeah. And, perfectionism can breed lots of things, and it can breed jealousy. You look at some, like you're saying, join people in that, not putting that unrealistic expectation on yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Meredith, what would you, when it comes to perfectionism as a whole, what would you say a good 1% would be for people?
I would say maybe the recognition that this isn't easy. How many times do we hear from clients, this is really hard? Well,
Mm.
yeah, life is hard. So I do think that that sometimes is a reckoning that we have is that life is hard. We can't coast through it. It is work. So there's an expression, choose your hard. So what is the hard going to be as your 1%? And as we're talking about this, I'm thinking, what is my next shift? I would say the 1% for me right now is working on the social media stuff that neither one of us loves as far as we are on social media for all of you. This is a huge learning curve. The 1% is doing one more post than I would like to do.
Mm.
So when I get to a point where I don't want to do the post, I make sure that I do it.
The 1% for me is making sure that I point out the lie.
It's true. We can definitely trace it back. Yeah, that's a really good point too, is yeah, we're asking that like, where did it come from? Because it came
Yeah.
from somewhere, right? If
Yeah.
we know it's a learned behavior, a conditioning, it came from somewhere. So
Yeah.
that's a really good question to ask ourselves too.
Yeah. We have to have a good relationship with the truth. We really do.
So that's why we surround ourselves with people who will tell us the truth, right?
Yep.
Because sometimes it's hard for us to tell ourselves the truth. We talked about the subject of being perfect today, not feeling good enough, a place where we've all been. If you haven't seen this yet with us, if you haven't heard this yet with one with me, we always try to use as much humor as we can in our faults, in our imperfections, but also the things that we really love and that we do well too. So I think that humor is a way to also work through this. So make sure that you are definitely reflecting on those parts where you feel like you need to be perfect or you're striving to be. We've asked those questions today. Where does that come from? What is the 1% that I can shift in this way? And is there humor along the way that I can use to just lessen the intensity of feeling that I have to be perfect?
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We hope to be in your ear next week. Look for our episodes coming out every Wednesday. Have a great week, guys.